Welcome to my channel, Jadella Fashion Guide. Today is your first time on this channel. You are welcome. I make sewing tutorials, drafting, cutting, and all. So you are welcome to this family. Kindly click on the subscribe button and also put on the notification bell so you'll be notified each time I make a new video. I always make videos every week. So today we are going to be making a tutorial on how to draft a short pant like the one I am wearing. It's going to have a patch pocket and a front zipper. So if this is what you would like to learn on this channel today, then kindly watch the video to the end. So let's go right into the cutting. I'm going to be using lining for the drafting because my fabric is very colorful. So let's go in. I'm going to be making the pants, the short pants with this fabric. This is very colorful and you may not be able to see the chalk mark. So I'm going to be drafting with this lining. We'll be having a turn up. So at the base here, I'm going to rule a line, a 2.5 inch line. So from the down, I'll just mark 2.5. So this part is for the turn up. Now to know the amount of fabric to put on fold, if you are drafting directly on your fabric, you use your tie measurement. Use half of your tie measurement plus 1 or 2 inches. That is how to know how much fabric to put on fold. So I'm going to rule, this place is kind of rough, so I'll just rule a starting line here, so that we can have a straight line. Okay. Now for this short pants, we need the waist circumference, we need the hip circumference, we need a thigh round, a thigh measurement, we need a knee round or the knee circumference. And of course, we also need the length of the pants. Okay, for the waist and the hip measurement, you are going to be dividing it by 4. But for the thigh and the knee, we'll divide it by 2. The waist to the hip that I'm working with is 8 inches, and the waist to the crotch is 11 inches. Now, if you've already gotten your hip measurement, you can go down from your hip measurement by 3 inches to get your crotch measurement, and then if you further go down by another 3 inches, you will have your thigh measurement. For some persons, 2.5 inches also work fine. So having known the measurement that we are working with, the waist is 37, the hip is 48, the hip is actually 46, but I don't want the pants, the short pant, to be tight on me. I want it to be a bit loose, so I'm not using my exact hip measurement. I'm using 48. I'm adding extra 2 inches, but my hip is 46. And then the thigh measurement I'm working with is 32, and the knee circumference is 24 inches. I will be adjusting this as we go along. So I already have 2.5 inches from this down part. So we are going to be having a turn up at the pants. We are going to be using the same fabric to turn up. So I'm using this part for it, these 2.5 inches. And then from here, I'll mark the length of the short. So the length of the short is 21 inches. 21 inches. Well, let me say 20 inches. 20 inches will put me here. Let's take 20 inches. So you can go according to your desired length. 20 inches. So this is where I have 20 inches. So this is my 20 inches. This is the full length of the pant, of the short pant. But I'm going to be having a band, and the band is going to be 2 inches band. So mark your band according to your preference. So this is the band. Just follow me closely. So this is for the band. And of course I need 1/2 inch to stitch this to the band. So I'm going to mark 1/2 inch. So you can iron your lining before using so that it will be straight. So I'm going to connect this point with a ruler. I've left here as broken line so that you don't get confused. So where we want to cut, this is where we are going to be cutting. So I've added the same allowance to the top. So this is now the waist measurement. This is now the waist. So in order for us not to get confused, I'm going to be taking my measurement from here. So just know that we have stopped. So from here is the band. So let me write band here so that you will know. So this one is the band. Okay. So from there, I'll mark to the hip, waist to hip. So this is waist to hip. And then waist to crouch. Waist to crouch. My waist to crouch is 11 inches. Now to get that, you can use the hip circumference divided by 4, and then you can subtract 1/2 inch from that, because the crush length is not supposed to be too long. Okay, but if it is a high waist pant you are making, then you add 1/2 inch to the thigh, to the hip divided by 4. You add 1/2 inch to it so that you can get your high waist. But for a low waist, you subtract 1 inch if it's a low waist. Okay, and then if it's just an average waist, like I'm going to be using a 2 inches band, then I'll subtract just 1/2 inch. So instead of using 11.5 as my original hip divided by 4, I'll use 11. Okay, so depending on your hip measurement, you can subtract 1 inch or 1/2 inch. Okay, and then if it is a high waist pant you are making, then that quarter of the hip circumference, you'll be adding extra 1 inch to it because it is a high waist. So let's label. This is the hip line, this is the crouch line, and then 2.5 inches from that, or 2 inches or 3 inches, you can get the thigh measurement. So this is a thigh line. So this is our thigh line. So here is our thigh line. So far we have put in the waist, the hip line, the crouch line, and then the thigh line. So On this hip line, I'm going to put quarter of my hip circumference. Quarter of the hip circumference, which is 12. Remember that I have already added allowance to this, so I am not going to add extra again. So do yours according to your preference. If you have not added allowance already to your measurement, then after marking quarter of your hip circumference, you can add ½ inch. But I've already added the ½ inch to this measurement, so I have 12. So you repeat the same 12 on the waist. You also repeat it on the crotch line, so that we can have a straight line. So this is our straight line. So on this crotch line, you go ahead and impute half of your thigh measurement. Half of the thigh measurement. You can impute the thigh measurement at this point. Okay, so the thigh we are using is 16. So on this crotch line, I'm going to mark the 16 inches. Then you can go ahead and also mark it on the thigh line. Like so. Okay. Now, if you are not going to put in your thigh measurement here, if you want to just do the crouch extension, you can divide what you have here into 4 and then add it. But I'm not using my exact thigh, I'm adding extra to that. If I were to just divide this will be 12 divided by 4 will give us 3 inches. It will give us 3 inches. I'm not using my exact thigh, so I've added extra 1 inch, okay, because I want the short pants to be free around the thigh. So that is why I just went straight to use the thigh measurement. So you can actually impute your thigh measurement on the crotch line. So just put in the thigh measurement on the crotch line. Okay, like this. And then to get the crotch curve, you can use your French curve to do that. Just place it on it like this to get an angle between here and here. So you can just use your French curve like this. If you do not have a French curve, then you mark this corner like this. You mark 1.5. Okay, this diagonal corner like this. You put your tape like this. You mark 1.5 so that you'll be able to get the curve like this. So once I've gotten this on this thigh now, you can now get the midpoint of the thigh. The midpoint, mark the midpoint of the thigh like this. So this is necessary if you want the pants, the short pants, to be a bit fitted around the knee area. If not, you just take your measurement down. If you want the same wideness at the knee area, then just take it down. But if you want it a bit fitted, then you get the midpoint of the thigh. So whatever you have there, you also repeat it at the hemline here, which is going to be around the knee. So I have my straight line like this. So I can now go ahead and include half of my knee measurement. The knee is 24, but I'm not going to use my exact knee. So I'm going to be using, when you divide 24 by 2, you are going to have 12, which is 6 inches on both sides. So I'm not going to be using 6 inches, I'm going to be using 7. Like I said, I want the pant to be a bit free, so I'll mark 7 here, like this. Then I also mark 7 on this side, so that means we have 14. That will give us a total of 14, and then the tie is 16. Okay, so from there I just connect to the tie line like this. So I slant it to the tie line like this. Just to give it a little shape at the down part. That is if you are not, if you want to have a little shape, you have to shape it like the one I'm wearing. So here is still the same. So we come to the waist. So to put in the waist circumference divided by 4, we start from this middle. So from here we measure the waistline, not from here, from the center. From the center, we mark the waistline this way. So the waist I'm working with is 9.25, which puts me here. So if you intend to use a dart, then you go ahead and add your dart allowance. Okay, if you want to put a dart, then you can now add dart allowance of 1 inch. And then same allowance. So from here then I'll connect to the hip line. I'll connect this to the hip line like this. So if you have a hip curve, then you go ahead and make use of the hip curve. But this one, not, I don't like the curve of this, so that's why I've used the straight ruler. So if you have your hip curve, then go ahead and make use of the hip curve at this point, like this. Okay, and then for this front part, want the pant to relax very well. So this middle, I'm going to go down by ½ inch, and then connect to the side like this. Okay, so I can go ahead now and add the same allowance, the ½ inch same allowance that we added before. But we need the same allowance to add, to join the pant to the band. So I can go ahead now and mark the same allowance. So if I want to cut, this is where I'm going to cut this point. So this is the point I'm going to be cutting. This is the same allowance. Okay, so we are almost through. So the next thing now is to give allowance for the zipper in front, the zip fly. So I'm going to give 2 inches. So you can, if you like, you can make yours 1.5, but I want to use 2 inches. And this one is optional. This is if you want to have a cut together of the fabric with the fly. If you don't, you can cut here and then add, use a fabric to now add the zip fly to it. So this is where the zip fly is going to end. It will end on the hip. So you can end here on the hip, or let's say 6.5. then you just connect this into the curve like this. Okay, if you see ends here, it's still okay. If it ends on the hip, it's still okay. Then from there you just connect like this. Okay, so we are through with the front pattern. We are ready to cut. So before we cut this out, this down part, in order not to have shortages when because we are going to be folding it. Remember, it's going to be a tone. We're going to fold it. So before you cut it, just fold this down. Just fold it like this before you cut. So let's cut out the front pattern. It is clear so far. If you have any questions, you can leave it in the comment section below. So this is what we have. You see where we needed to fold these parts like this. So we're going to place this on. So we're going to place this on it again to cut out the back pattern. So when we are cutting this out on our fabric, we're going to be cutting two. We're going to be cutting two of this. So let's cut out the back pattern. To draft the back pattern, we place the front pattern on another pattern paper or whatever you are using, like this. So we do not need any other seam allowance here again. We're going to be adding our sewing allowance to this side. So this zipper fly, just fold it in like this. Fold it in. Then you can use your pin to hold that down. So for the back pattern, the only difference between the back and the front is the same allowance. So for this upper part, I'll be going up by 1.5. So this depends on how big your butt is. You can do 1.5 or 2 inches. Remember that we went down in front by half. So 1.5 plus that half, that will give us 2 inches like this. You can do 2 inches or you do 1.5 depending on your butt. This 1.5, it will be here. And then we are going to connect this to the side. Connect it to the side like this. Okay. Remember that we have extended here. So you can go ahead and measure what you have here to be sure that that is what you also have here. I have 11 inches. This is 11 inches. And then we need seam allowance this way. So let's just complete that first. We'll come back here. We are coming out by 2 inches. 2 inches. So on this crash, I'll come out by 2 inches as well. Or you do 2.5. For some person, they just use what they have, what they used here before, and just repeat it. So I'm also going to come out here by 2 inches. So I'll connect okay. So this part will remain. This part is the same. So I'll measure what I have. I have 11 inches. So this is 13, which is okay. That is the 11 plus seam allowance. That is 13. Okay. So this is the 11 inches here. Remember that we need seam allowance. We need 1 inch for the side seam, and then we are going to be using ½ inch to join this crotch line. We are going to be using ½ inch to join this crotch line. Okay, so that will give me 1½ here. So I can now from here now connect to this hip line. So that means the back is a bit different from the front, just a little. So I can connect this to the hip line from here. Like this. So go ahead and cut it out. So let's label our pattern. This is front, and we'll cut 2. This is back, and we'll also cut 2. So let me just show you where to place the dart. So to place the dart, you can just extend this line upward, or from the center you mark half of your bust span measurement. So extend it like this. So I'm going to take 1/2 inch on both sides. That's just to give it fit around the waistline. So for the length, remember we are going to be having a 2 inches band, so we can stop the length. You can stop the dart length 2 inches before the hip line. Okay, you can stop 2 inches before the hip line. 2 inches above the hip line. Then you can also notch where you have it so that it will reflect on the 2 pattern. Remember you're going to be cutting it with 2. Then you also fold the back into 2 like this and notch where the dart will be. So we are going to use this to cut out our pattern. Now for the patch pocket, we are going to be adding a patch pocket to the front pattern. So let me just explain to you how to determine your patch pocket. Now for the length of the patch pocket, you can stop just a little below the hip before the crotch line. Okay, so or you stop on the hip line. So depending on how deep you want the pocket to be. So assuming I want to stop 1 inch below the hip line, then that means I'm going to stop somewhere here. So that means it's going to be 9 inches long. But if I want to cut, I'll cut 10 inches. And then for the width should not be more than this dart line. Okay, so 6.5 is okay for me, and then I'll add extra 1 inch to that, making 7.5. So I'm going to cut out 7.5 by 10 inches. So I've cut out 7.5. This is 7.5 by 10 inches. So this is the front pattern. So it's going to be on it like this. This upper part, we are going to fold it half. We are going to 1/2 inch of it is going to be added into the band. Okay, 1/2 inch into the band. So we are going to place this in a way that it will align with the side. Okay, so you can use the side of this to shape the side here. So just place it on it like this. And then you can shape the side. So after doing that, you put an arrow to indicate that this is the part you are going to be joining, like this. Okay, so if you look at the one I'm wearing, you see here, this is where the pocket is. Okay, so I'm going to be creating the pocket opening here. So for the pocket opening, remember that here right now we have 10. After sewing, you are going to have 9. Okay, we need 1/2 inch. 1/2 inch to join into the band. Then we are still going to be folding this down part half inch. You're going to fold here because this pocket is a surface pocket. We are sewing it on top of the pattern. So in between, you can mark what you have in between and share it into two. Just mark what you have in between and share it into two. So that will give you a guide. Okay, and then from here you go in by 3 inches. Three inches or 2.5, and then form a curve. You connect this to this part, because this is where you're going to place your hand. So you connect it like this. Sorry, the line is not straight. So we have 2 of these, so you can place, maybe double this before you cut it, so that you just cut both of them at once. Or after cutting like this, they use this to cut the second one. So our hand will go in from here. Okay, so this is going to be 2. It's going to be here like this. So if you want to stitch, you just fold here in. You can fold here in with 1/4 or half inch. Fold here in, you iron it. Then you also fold the down part, half inch, you iron it. And now place it on it like this. Okay, and then you can just use a temporary stitch. You sew here close to the side. So we'll cut the bands after joining the front and the back pattern together. So let's use this now to cut out our fabric, and then we'll sew. These are placed my pattern to cut